Speaking of
the elections, all of that good fun.
Steve.
Yeah, let's bring in our next guest right now. Appreciate you joining us,
Brendon Blake.
Yes,
nice to meet you both.
From AARP. And the reason we're talking election is we're talking about older voters and the role they're going to play in this upcoming election.
Absolutely, yeah. Older voters have been one of the biggest and most reliable voting blocks in the United States, and especially here in Arizona, as we have a much larger older population. So there's certainly somebody to talk about.
Tell us about the new polling that AARP has done with the Biggs and Hobbs race. It's kind of interesting, actually, when you see the results of this poll. We'll just say here that Katie Hobbs leads Andy Biggs among all voters by 52% to 44% in the poll that was conducted. But if you take Andy Biggs and you look at voters who are 50 plus, that flips.
Yep.
That number flips from 53 to 44%.
Correct.
What was your reaction to those results of the poll? What does that say?
Sure. First thing I want to mention is that, our polling, AARP being a nonpartisan organization, the thing that we want to take seriously is we want to use polling firms that are trusted. Mm-hmm. And so we use a group of polling firms, Impact Polling, which is a Democratic-aligned firm. They did the last couple of presidential campaigns for the Democrats, and then Fabrizio Ward. They've done President Trump's campaign since 2016. So we try to use both of those polling firms in conjunction together. They work together and they publish these results as a group, and part of that tries to give us credibility that, hey, we're not trying to help one candidate or another. We don't endorse candidates. We don't support them in any way. And so the way that we're trying to just put this information out so that way older voters get their concerns heard. You asked about the polling itself. It's a little surprising, but certainly there's some room to be made up.
What are some of the things that older voters have told you are the most important things to them this election?
Yeah, according to our polling, it's a lot of the fiscal stuff. It's the spending, the affordability issues. That's been the biggest things that we've seen. If you break down affordability, they also talk about not just groceries. They'll talk about utility prices. They'll talk about healthcare costs, and some of their concerns include retirement security. Do I make enough on my Social Security or whatever to be able to make it through my retirement? Those are the concerns that they have. They're all around financial issues.
And do we hear from some of the older voters, too, a concern about, and we've heard about this for many years, about Social Security dwindling down, but maybe eventually not being there? Mm-hmm. Is that what you're hearing from them, is that they need that safety net to be assured that that's going to be there when they need it?
Absolutely. Social Security always ranks as a highly, highly sought after and valuable program for people to continue to have access to. And our poll is no exception to that. We've seen this. We ask about Social Security in every single one of our election polls, whether it's here in Arizona for the last number of years or it's around the country. We always ask about Social Security, and it always ranks as, do you believe that Social Security should continue and provide benefits? 90% of people, and in any issue that you poll on these days, you're never going to see that kind of unanimous support. So we just see that, and certainly it's something that older adults are concerned about.
Fascinating.
And maybe not as much when we hear about some of the younger voters' concerns. We're hearing more about the war in Iran, Gaza, Israel, that kind of thing. Is that not so much showing up when you're looking at people 50 plus? They're more of like economy is the issue that they're focused on?
Yeah, our polling didn't actually address the foreign affairs issues. We focused mostly on issues related to the state. Our biggest elections this year, it's the first time in a long time we've not had a statewide federal election, so we focused mostly on the state issues, and you see economy issues across all of the groups. Now, I will say younger voters, one of their biggest concerns is around housing, whereas other voters, it may be the grocery issue or the utilities or their health care. So there's a little bit of difference, but across the board, financial issues are the biggest piece.
What's the leaving message here? Is it that, every voice matters? You want seniors to get out there and make sure their voices are heard this election?
Absolutely. And one of the things that our poll talks about is the fact that older adults, they are 10 out of 10 motivated to vote. Like 77% of them say that they are. So, certainly, especially if you're considering where Mr. Biggs is, his voters, the ones that are supporting him, they're out there and they're motivated to vote. And it's interesting that we're seeing the younger voters, they think it's about 56% in our poll of under 35 or a 10 out of 10 motivated to vote. So there's a huge motivation gap there.
Wow, fascinating.
Brendon Blake with AARP, the Arizona Director of Advocacy. We really appreciate you being with us.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's a pleasure.
Yeah,
of course.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.